Welcome back to Untaming Masculinity, the podcast where we tackle issues relevant to men and their journeys to reclaim their masculinity. I'm Dan, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host and good friend Brad. What's going on this fine morning?
Oh man, I mean, you've heard from me before we started recording. I was a little grumpy. I did not sleep well at all. It's 7 a.m. local, came up way too soon, rolled out of bed and just groaned, stumbled downstairs. But I'm getting there. I'm feeling the cobwebs shaking out. How about you?
I'm doing much better because it's 9 o'clock here, and I also have coffee, so that helps. Yeah, things are good though. We're still living through this construction, which I'm over, but we've got walls up, so walls up. They're gonna start putting floors in pretty soon. It's gonna be a good time.
So you got to tell everybody your living situation right now because they're gonna love it.
Yeah, so we've got a split level ranch house, and basically the whole floor when you walk in, the living room, dining room, kitchen area is all under construction. So we are primarily living upstairs in the bedrooms, or downstairs we've got like a 20 by 8 foot den. And that is our kitchen, living room, dining room. There's a half bath down there too. It's just everybody's on top of each other all day long. It's great. So I'm very happy once we could all spread out.
Teenage daughters, I'm sure it's time of your life.
Doesn't help that my wife and I actually both like to cook too, which is another reason why we're doing the kitchen. So, making meals off a hot plate and an air fryer is rather difficult, and the grill. But it's been raining here, so the grill has been kind of in and out. So anyways, enough complaining on my end. Today, we actually have a guest on our show. His name is Nolan Connell. He is a member of the Iron Council with us. And rather than try and get into all about him, I'm just going to have him introduce himself. So Nolan, welcome to the show, man. Why don't you jump on in and tell the guys a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, gents. Before I introduce myself, I have a really funny joke. The Long Islander, a polygamous gorilla, and the Texas Sasquatch get together for a podcast.
All right. Nobody knows why I'm called the polygamous gorilla.
Oh,
okay?
Man. Oh, I'm sorry. Was I not supposed to let that one out?
Oh my!
It's out there now for you, Brad.
So I'm a Mormon, and there's a video of me jumping into a little lake in Maine where I run like a gorilla, arms out, very ape-like in my motion. So now everybody knows. You're welcome, everybody.
I like Nolan even more now.
Awesome. Well, good morning, guys. Like they said, my name is Nolan Connell. Say it right. It's Connell.
Oh, sorry, sir.
Know these two fine gentlemen from the Iron Council. Been in 3.5 years now, I think. Yeah, 3.5 years. I'm currently a mentor. I have 4 teams that I'm assigned to, and then I'm actually on one of the teams from this fine group of these guys. Marine Corps vet, living here in Texas, where I absolutely love it. It is home, although I was born and raised in South Louisiana, so swamp boy, as everybody likes to say, coon ass. So, yeah, man, 33 years old, wife and kids. We've been married 11 years and have a 12-year-old boy and 10-year-old girl.
Cool, man. So part of the reason we wanted to talk to you today is you've recently undergone a transformation. Yes, he is still a man, but
yeah, please put that out there.
But you worked for years in law enforcement, and you've recently undertaken a pretty seismic career change. That's something we wanted to talk about. So I guess to kick things off, what are you doing now?
So I am now a rental manager for a Kubota tractor dealership. So any equipment that we sell, we also rent out. So anything from excavators to skid steers to tractors of all different sizes. We have a bunch of like oddball stuff too. And then any implement that they make, we pretty much rent out as well. So I get to play with tractors and excavators and skid steers all day like a little kid.
Cool, man.
So that sounds like a lot of fun, but what was the impetus that caused that change?
So was in law enforcement for 13 years. Did 5 years in the military, 4 years in Florida, and then 4 years here in Texas. And the last 3 years, I've seen a huge shift in law enforcement. Not necessarily what you're seeing on the media. That plays a very minimal role in it because we all know the media plays what is really going on, but it's actually the internal parts of what's happening across law enforcement, of it all becoming about a clique mentality and who can you buddy up with the most, and you know who are you sucking up to the most. And if you don't do that, then you're kind of become the black sheep, and they want everybody to be yes men and just do as they say and not ask questions and not try to provide any other feedback to it. They're just very much, this is what I do, this is what I say, this is what you're going to do, whether you like it or not. And I just got really tired of that and not having the ability to do my job without being micromanaged, and not having the ability to make decisions that I feel are the best decisions without being contradicted and told that I was wrong and that I shouldn't do it that way and that everything I do is wrong and all kinds of stuff. So there was a bunch of stuff of it, but it's that shift I've seen over the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, and it's happening everywhere. It happened at the big agency I was with in Florida. I came here to a smaller municipality. It happened there as well. It was very much a clique mentality. And if you weren't a part of the special SWAT team, then you pretty much got nothing. So, you know, that kind of shift. And it's unfortunate because that is what I see as the biggest downfall in law enforcement right now. Is it's not the outside forces. We ourselves are killing each other from the inside out.
So I know you well enough to know that you're the type of guy who's generally not going to stand up for that kind of crap.
Mm-mm.
So when you spoke up against this sort of thing, how was that met or received?
I was told, so like, during the interview, they all, when you're doing interviews and stuff, they always want to preach it up and act like everything you're saying is just the right thing, right? So, but I told them in my interview, I said, listen, if this is the type of person you want, do not hire me because I'm not that person. I don't want you to hire me and waste my time if that's what you're looking for, because I'm not going to do that. So, I live by a principle that I was taught by one of an officer I've known for several years, taught me this principle. And it's, no matter what you're doing, why are you doing what you're doing when you're doing it? And so I apply that to anything and everything I'm doing. And so there was a situation where they felt that I should have done something completely different than what I did. And I said, y'all weren't on the scene. Y'all weren't there. It was my decision to make. There was not a supervisor there. It was just me and another officer. This is the best that we had to do with what we had to do. And it saved the guy's life and it saved our lives. And in the end, we helped this person out. So what's the issue here? Oh, well, I think you should have done it this way. And I said, well, you weren't there. That's not how it happened. That there's nothing that says I had to do it that way. There's no policy and procedures. And so got into a big argument about that. And basically, I was told, you're going to do how I tell you to do. And I said, I'm not going to do how you tell me to do. I'm going to do what saves my life, what saves the other person's life, and what's best for the community when it's my decision to make. If you don't like that, come out and work on the streets and don't go sit in your office and then go sleep all night long while the rest of us are out at night doing our job. And it was not received very well. And that was kind of
Yeah.
the ending towards that. I became basically told that I was immature and that I needed to learn how to mature a lot faster and that I needed to do a bunch of these things. And I said, it's not that I'm immature. I said, it's you're the immature one who doesn't like being told no and doesn't like being told that your option sucks, basically. And so, yeah.
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
the other part to it was basically there was a, I think I told you about this, Brad, but we had a meeting like every day before shift. We have our shift briefings, and they started the conversation out with, "This is not micromanaging." So you know what that's going to be right after, right? Like when somebody tells you that, it's like saying with all due respect, right? You know, like it doesn't mean anything. So basically, they were told is that, oh, as sergeants, we're going to now show up to all of your scenes, no matter what they are, so that way we can watch what you're doing and document it, so that at the end of the year when we do our end of year reviews, we have all this information. I said, so you're micromanaging. And this was right after like I told them that I was leaving. So they're like, no, it's not micromanaging, blah blah blah, right? And I said, no, that's micromanaging. And I stood up for like all the people at the table, and I told my sergeant and the other sergeant sitting there, I said, y'all know this is wrong. The fact that y'all are doing this because somebody else is just telling you to do it, because he doesn't have control over patrol anymore, y'all are just as wrong for not standing up and saying, no, this is my shift. I'm going to do what I feel is necessary and what I please. And you can stay and do what you need to do over there. But you're not going to have direct reflection over how I do with my shift. And that didn't go over too well either.
Yeah.
But I feel
Man.
bad because, you know, it's like that shift. And I mean, that whole department I was with at the time that this happened, is the average officer has 3 years of experience. That's like brand new. And that's the most vulnerable time in a law enforcement officer's life, is that first 5 years and the last 5 years. Last 5 years, complacency. First 5 years, you only know enough to get your ass kicked. So, you know, it's a very thin line, and it's like, all right, well, if nobody's going to stand up for those first five, and the last five, nobody's going to say anything to you because they're like, we're just waiting for him to retire, right? So I felt really bad that these guys are going to be treated this, and that's how they're going to think of law enforcement for the next however many years they're in, is that that's what it's like, and that's how it's supposed to be, and that's not what law enforcement is supposed to be like.
Yeah. You think about, I mean, nationally, for various reasons, obviously this being one of them, cops are retiring early. They are leaving, well, they're leaving the force in droves.
Yeah.
You've seen all these statistics where it's happening in big cities. As you can speak, it's happening in smaller municipalities as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like all of that's contributing to what's already a really stressful, intense work environment, making it that much worse.
I mean, and, you know, the other thing it goes back to is, what's that saying is, people don't leave a job because of money; they leave because of bad leadership.
Yep.
That's just, I mean, most 90% of people will stay in a crappy job, or in a good job with crappy money, if they have good leadership. But when you have shitty leadership and you don't get paid anything, why am I going to stay here when I could go somewhere else? You know?
Why was there such low experience level in this particular group? Are you losing a lot of people because of what we've talking about here, or is it just so happened that
Pay.
this agency, had younger staff?
No, it's just this agency had younger staff. It's a very small department, like 20 something officers. So,
Gotcha.
you know, the pay isn't what everybody else in the area makes. So, you know, you have to want to come and work for that agency, or know somebody there, or basically just getting hired because you're brand new and they need somebody and you get the experience. You know, it's what you see with a lot of the smaller agencies like this. Usually it's somewhere for somebody to go to get experience, 2 years experience, so they can go work at a bigger agency, because a lot of the bigger agencies want officers that have experience, that know how to deal with people, how to talk with people, and put them directly on the road, um, versus having to train them and how to teach them how to do every little thing. So if you've got some experience, usually helps go into the bigger agencies.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So I'm kind of drawn to a question. Let's go back a little bit. Let's go way back, if you will. So naturally, most people don't become cops because of the pay.
Yeah.
If we're being completely honest. What was the impetus originally when you started as a cop? Why'd you want to do it? What was the why behind that?
Yeah, so I've grown up as a first responder community. When I was 16 and well, I guess it was 15, really, I started. In high school, I was a part of an Explorer program for the ambulance company. So we got to do ride alongs on the ambulance and help out and learn, do stuff like that. And also worked for was a volunteer with the fire department and did a bunch of stuff with the police department all the time. And then high school graduated, was going to go to college, and like my dream job was always to be a NICU nurse. Like that was my dream job. And then was like realized that the college I would have gone to would have partied too much and not made it through college. So it's like, hey, what's the next best thing to do? Let's go to the military. And at the time, my best friend from high school and I were going to do the buddy program, and chose the MP field. Well, old boy couldn't pass the ASVAB, which, if you know the Marine Corps, you need like a 28 to pass the ASVAB, which is like putting your name on the paper and filling out C all the way down, and you make like a 35. so, so yeah, so ended up going by myself, and so because I had already signed my job, you know, almost a year prior to when I went, or I guess 6 months prior to when I went, I couldn't change jobs really, and I was like, man, it's all right, I like it, and I'll enjoy being an MP. So, and then when I got out, it was just a really easy transfer, because I had gone through basically at the time 2 different police academies. The state of Florida had a equivalency program, so all I had to do was do like this 2-week course and then take the take the state test. So it's just an easy transition into law enforcement after the military.
Yeah. It's
Wait, I heard something that I want to back up on though, because and it really doesn't. A NICU nurse.
Yes.
You don't hear many men wanting to
Yeah.
be a NICU nurse.
So again, when I was in Explorer, one of the ambulances that I rode with a lot was they were specialized in NICU transfers. So
Mm-hmm.
we would do all the NICU transfers from the women's hospital to New Orleans or, wherever in the area. So I got to see a lot of that. And yeah, that really, really piqued my interest, and did a lot of studying on it. Went and spent some time doing some like in-house training and whatnot at the NICU department at the women's hospital. Yeah, that's
Pretty
how
cool.
that interest. I mean, I always wanted to be a nurse, and then once I saw that side of it, I was like, oh, that's what I want to do.
You've always kind of been drawn in ways to serving and helping others. It takes a very compassionate person, the huge heart, to be a NICU nurse. I have my sister-in-law, at least was a NICU nurse for a short amount of time, and while she couldn't tell me much, some of those stories they're beautiful, but they're heartbreaking. You hear stories of babies, kids celebrating their first birthday in the NICU, and it just
Yeah.
tears me up. And obviously, in law enforcement, you're doing the same thing. You're seeing some really, really difficult things. You're putting yourself in a situation to better people's lives, but you're also being exposed to heartrending things.
Mm-hmm.
So that says a lot about the kind of guy you are in terms of how you want to serve others and be there for others. So I can imagine that juxtaposition of like being that guy who's very focused on the well-being of others, dealing with conflict in a bureaucratic environment like a police department is probably pretty tough for you, at least on a personal level.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very hard, and my wife had mentioned several times that she had noticed my stress level was like insanely high. I was angry a lot coming home, and it was really taking a toll on our relationship. And I kept telling her, I said, well, I want to leave, but I'm not just going to take any job and give up the life that I have. Like, it's got to be the right position, got to feel like it's the right thing. We talk about it. We all feel as a family that it's the right thing. And night shift was getting to our schedule, my kids, like it was hard every day when my daughter was saying, Dad, please don't go to work. I don't want you to go to work because I want you to be home in the morning when I get up. Like that feeling of at 10 years old, she knows whether or not dad's going to make it home or not, you know? So that was starting to get pretty tough. And same thing hearing it from my son. And, my wife was just not dealing with it very well. And we were all just tired of it, to be honest with you. Not necessarily in like the bad way. It was just 13 years and the stress of living that lifestyle. And like every time I leave and we go out as a family, am I going to run into something? Am I going to run into somebody? My family having to live in that orange mentality, all the time was just, it was getting to be enough for all of us. And so this opportunity came along and it's like, all right, let's do it.
That makes a lot of sense. Living in a stressful environment, living in that orange mentality, as you always said, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's a microcosm of what a lot of guys go through, if you think about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's whether it's work environment, whether it's other personal struggles, whether it's financial struggles, when you're dealing with that amount of stress, it not only tears you down, it as you said and as you illustrated really clearly, it had a huge impact on your family, on your loved ones. You talked about how it impacted your marriage with your wife. You talked about how your daughter was concerned about you all the time. That's something that men's tend to forget about. We're so focused on this concept of providing for others and we've got to suck it up and get through all these hard times. Why? It creates this wake of destruction, not just for us, but for the people that we love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that's what became the hard decisions because I love it. I love my job so much, and I love being a police officer. And I've done pretty much everything in law enforcement that I could do, and became tough. Of do I leave something that I love and that I know I'm really good at and passionate about? That's destroying my family, or do I make the decision that my family is more important and I need to, worry about them and provide for them and protect over them in a different way than what I have for the last 13 years, and take that opportunity and run with it and see where it goes. And that's what I chose, and it has been the best decision I made. And can't even tell you how long, to be honest with you.
So that brings up an interesting concept though, because as Brad and I talk a lot about how men need to fulfill themselves and be able to find joy in the work that they do. Um, and it sounds you were just saying how you got a lot of fulfillment from being a police officer, and you decided to move away from that to fulfill your duties as a husband and a father and a family man. How are you filling that void now? Is your new job giving you that same kind of satisfaction, or are you filling your void elsewhere? And how are you doing that?
um, you know, I don't really feel a void, to be honest with you. I think because I've been doing it, like I said, since I was 15.
Hmm.
So, almost 15, 17, 18 years. You know, I, so there's not really a void there because I think I have fulfilled everything I could do and everything I wanted to do. I mean, the only thing I didn't do in law enforcement that I really wanted to do was be a canine officer, but I spent years training with them and working with them when I was in law enforcement, and even in the military. So I still got a part of it. So I don't feel that void as necessarily as much as I thought I might. Um, but I do know that I'm sure at some point it's going to show up. And I think you get that break for a while and then it's like, well, I'm missing something. So I've already said like if that void comes back, like there's volunteer opportunities all over the place.
Hmm.
So that's the nice part of it. But like I said, it's just there's not really that void there, and I think it's because I have focused so much on being present with my family now that I have that time that it's not giving me the opportunity to feel like I'm missing anything.
That makes sense.
It's awesome, man. Going back to what you were saying a little earlier about how you felt like you were presented with a choice of either continue to do what you love doing or be there for your family. And you're making the realization now that so many men miss out on that that's a false dichotomy. You don't necessarily have to choose between your job and your family. You can have both. And the fact that you were able to find something now that you're doing something that enables you to do both probably helped in a lot of ways validate to you those self-limiting beliefs of that false dichotomy. And so many guys get stuck in that. It's like, oh, I've got to take this job because it pays this amount of money to be able to provide for my family, but I'll never see them. Or I've got to take this job here that's going to force us to relocate somewhere I don't want to go. Too many men tell themselves that these are choices that they have to make at the behest or, sacrificing the well-being of their family is kind of a causality of that. But it's bullcrap, man. It's a complete false dichotomy. So you sharing the story it's very validating and reassuring for probably some guys out there who are wrestling with similar decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I was a product of that. My dad he was in the retail business, and we moved pretty much every 2 to 4 years. We were moving, and I remember we lived in Houston at the time, and we were moving to Tampa, Florida, and I remember being like extremely pissed off at my parents about it because I had really good friends. I was in a really good school, really enjoying it. I was like, I guess going in, it would have been the middle of sixth grade. So, like, right in the middle of the year, I was moving and I was just pissed forever. And then I go
Yeah.
to this new school, we move halfway across the country, move, whatever. And we're there for a couple years. I had a really hard time there. I had like one friend, didn't really talk to most people, was bullied a lot. School didn't do anything about it, that whole scenario, and had a really, really tough time with it. And I blamed my parents all the time. I said, this is all y'all's fault. We should have stayed in Texas, but that was my dad's choice. It was, keep staying with the company that I'm with that's paying me every 2 years to move and move my family, plus give me a raise to go restart a new franchise there. And then 2 years after it was producing and doing what they wanted, they'd buy it back and we'd move somewhere else. So yeah, I was a product of that. Every 2 to 4 years, we were moving somewhere.
Yeah. And I'm sure your dad wasn't doing that to spite you. He probably felt that he was making the best move for his family.
Yeah, definitely so. And he taught me some things through that. And one of my favorite sayings is one of the things that we had a big conversation about, and I vividly remember it was actually, uh, if you're from Texas, Whataburger, Whataburger is like the restaurant. So
Yep.
Um, actually, he was working for a different company, and the guy that was one of the VPs left and started a Whataburger franchise in Florida. So they hired my dad to run and start the Tampa one. And so there was like several months where I got to just spend with my dad and go, like, he'd just check me out of school and be like, hey, we're going to scout retail locations and we're going to scout advertisement and marketing stuff, right? So during this, we had some really good conversations about business and stuff. And one of the things he always told me is never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game. And he said, that's every time I have to make this judgment call on, do I move the family or do I have to go find a new job? You know, that is what I sit down and I pray about it and I think about it. And I use that part of like a judgment call. And that is carried with me for forever. And he always told me with that is your network is your net worth. So no matter where you go, build a strong network and you will be prosperous in any way you choose. And those two things together have like been my rock on everything I do in life.
I love that saying of never let the fear of striking out prevent you from playing the game.
I'll give
That's
you 100 points if you know who it came from.
I feel like it was a Yankee who said that.
I feel like it was
It
Yogi Berra.
was
Yeah.
just,
Was it Yogi?
no, the great Bambino.
Was it Babe Ruth himself?
Yes, the great
The
Bambino, the old babe.
I like the exhale. So Dan and I are both Red Sox fans,
I'm
coincidentally.
sorry.
Watch your mouth.
You can't be a Yankee fan. You're from,
I'm not a Yankee
Louisiana
fan.
and Texas.
I'm an Astros fan, man.
All right. We can live with that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. As long as you're not a Yankees fan, we can deal with it.
Yeah, no Yankees.
But yeah, I mean that statement is it's so simplistic, but it's
Mhm.
very strong in the sense of there are a lot of guys who will let their fear of failure get a hold of them and keep them from just even attempting things.
Yeah.
And it's I know I've fallen prey to it. I'm sure you guys have too. It's very easy to say, well, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. And a lot of guys don't take the time to take that step back and just say, well, what if it doesn't?
Mm-hmm.
What if I actually succeed here? What does that look like? I see it all the time with guys at work. They're worried about stuff that they're doing. What if this happens? What if that happens? What are we gonna do? And my response to them a lot is, well, we'll cross that bridge if it comes up. But
Yes.
let's keep moving forward, and let's keep trying these things to accomplish the end goal. Because if we worry about everything that could happen, you'll never get anything done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You very easily could have just said, you know what? I'm a cop. There are these things I don't like, but I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for a long time. It allows me to provide for my family. There are things about it that I enjoy. And you could have just tried to dismiss or push aside all of the stuff that had been gnawing at you. You could have just chosen to let it ride and continue to push forward. And so many men, just like you guys are saying, do that. I'm going to keep this job because I'm comfortable. I'm not going to start a fitness journey because setting foot into a gym is absolutely terrifying. These are debates and internal struggles that most men have, and too many men choose the side of comfort because they're scared of what's on the other side. They're scared of the unknown.
Yeah. The best way to tackle that, left foot, right foot. Old Helga and Bertha, as my mom always said.
What?
Old Helga and Bertha will take you anywhere. Left
Okay.
foot, right foot. I don't know why Helga and Bertha, but that's what my mom used to say. Oh, you want to go somewhere? Go ahead. Helga and Bertha, your way out and out of here.
That's awesome.
But I mean, I was listening to that podcast you were talking about the other day, about fear and stuff. And some of it is fear, but I think some of it is just pure laziness, comfortable. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily fear. I think it's just we as a society have just bred comfortability and laziness and complacency. And as everybody knows, complacency kills. And that's next thing you know, you went from 200 pounds to 350 pounds. And now you're trying to eat your way out of a McDonald's sack filled with 50 cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
And so, it's that saying, I mean, you just left foot, right foot. You can't, the only way to eat the elephant is one bite at a time, right? You can't eat the whole elephant in one bite. So you got to take it one bite at a time. And, like we talk about that all the time in the Iron Council when we're teaching guys and how to do their battle plans, or, like this is a goal they have. Well, let's just take it one step at a time. What is my next first step to get to that goal? Right.
Yeah, we say a lot of times in the battle team that I'm in that growth comes in the discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
And when guys don't get discomfort or don't get uncomfortable, that's when you stop seeing growth. You stop seeing people moving forward in their marriage, in their work, in their fitness challenges or their fitness journeys. That discomfort is what provides the 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 evolution of your journey. And you're right, this society that we're in right now definitely espouses an okayness to stay in that relative comfort zone and not move out and not be uncomfortable. So
I would go as far as to argue it doesn't just say it's okay, it encourages it.
Mm-hmm.
You think of things even like the body positivity movement. Like we're in a position now where people are out there trying to shame folks for going to the gym. Like I have no issue with dogs, but when you go to every store and you see all these people who need a service companion because they mentally can't get through going through a supermarket, societally people are encouraged to be comfortable at all costs. Like I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the podcast, but part of the reason I'm tired sometimes when we do these morning podcasts is because I do a little bit of DoorDash on the side in addition to this, in addition to my job, just to ensure my wife doesn't have to work. And I'll tell you what, when you're doing DoorDash deliveries, you see laziness and comfort
Mm-hmm.
in the forefront. There are people who live half a mile from somewhere where I'm picking up food for them, where
Yeah.
they get $40 of Taco Bell. They can't go half a mile to pick up their Taco Bell.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And
And
they'll pay
then,
a disgusting
Do you
premium
do
for
you
that.
realize that the dichotomy in that situation, though?
yeah,
You are creating discomfort in your life
I
to
am.
create comfort in other
for
people's
somebody
lives.
else's. Dude,
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm just taking advantage of the system, man.
No, I understand completely, but it's amazing when you really
It
think
is
about
interesting, yeah.
how that works.
I have that conversation with people all the time. People's discomfort and laziness provides me an opportunity to have a side hustle to make
Mhm.
extra money for my family
Hmm.
because
Yep.
I'm not willing to be lazy. It's a very interesting dichotomy. It's crazy, but it's championed. You know, hey, here's this food. It's really easy to access. Don't go to the gym. Nobody goes to the gym. Look at those fat bros, those lugheads. Eat whatever you want. Be comfortable with it. No, you don't
You
like
could,
your job? That's okay. Quit and get another one.
yeah, just go to, the old PF and, get your pizza and lift and work out and,
Oh
just
man.
don't set off the alarms.
Yeah.
They want you
Oh,
down.
Don't drop your dumbbells. We're gonna have donuts later.
Yeah. Jeez.
But it's championed. It's sad.
Hmm.
And Nolan, I think coming back to you and your story, you chose a path of discomfort to find your ultimate goal. You
I
didn't know
mean,
what you're getting yourself into.
yeah. And it wasn't the first time. So, like when I wanted to join the military, I had two brothers in the Army, two brothers well, at the time, just two brothers in the Army. Uh, And I was like, well, screw that. I'm not going to the Army. I don't want to be another Connell in the Army. No, I'm going to go to the Marine Corps. So what I do, I joined the Marine Corps, which is by far the hardest boot camp. I don't care what anybody says. All right. You have to earn that title. It's not just given to you like every other boot camp is, and so 14 weeks there. And halfway through, I guess it was I want to say week 4 or week 5, I got pneumonia and I was too afraid to go to medical because I knew that going to medical at that time, they were dropping everybody. And that means that had been more time I was sitting on that dang island waiting for boot camp. And then you start all over again. It's not like you get to pick up where you're at. No, you start all over again. And I was not about that life. So I championed through that. Like literally every day, all I drank was water. I'd eat like peanut butter packets and jello and maybe yogurt. Lunch was usually peas and peanut butter packets. Like really light liquid stuff that like because anything heavy like made me insanely sick. And I remember like we'd be sitting in one of our classes and like you stay in class unless you're getting up to go to the bathroom. And I could like slowly remember some of these things of like walking out of the building and like walking out trying to find a DI or something and seeing one and like turning around and running back into the building and stuff because like I was just in that mind space, but I fought through it. And I fought through it. And for like that 6 weeks, I want to say it was like week 4 it started, and I lasted like 6 weeks with it. And at the final of that, once I got better, I remember my kill. They call them that you have like your kill hat, which is like the one that just murders everybody throughout boot camp. Then you have your drill instructor, which just focuses on drill movements and stuff. Then you have your senior drill instructor, and then the other guy is kind of just there and does all of it. Well, the actual drill guy looks like The Rock. Like, dude could be twin brothers with The Rock, right? He went to my senior drill instructor and was like, "No, I'm giving him his EGA." And that was the thing he said to me. He said, "The perseverance and the testicular fortitude to push through that you had." He said, "I know you were sick. I know that you were fighting that every single day." And he said, "I told all the other drill instructors if they saw you, not to mess with you. Let you be. You're pushing through whatever it is you're fighting." He said, "If it got to the point where I thought you needed to be forced to go, I would have forced you to go." He said, "But the fact that you showed everybody in this entire platoon, in this entire company, that you can fight through that and that you can continue to push yourself no matter what it is, taking care of yourself at the same time, like not getting too bad." He's like, "You taught me so many lessons that I never would have thought I would have ever learned." And so like it started there. And then as I moved along, through boot camp, through my life in the Marine Corps, getting out, deciding, do we go back to Texas? Do we go to Florida? Where do we go? And we moved to Florida. We got tired of Florida, and I packed up my family in one day and we moved it to Texas, like halfway across the country, drove our entire family here, left all of our comfort there, moved to a city in Texas where we knew one person.
Wow.
And that was one of my best friends from the Marine Corps. So like I love the challenge. I love, that adversity factor and being uncomfortable. Like, to be honest with you, that's what it is. And not being afraid for it. And as most people, I think y'all have seen it, but I have David and Goliath tattooed on my right forearm. And people ask about it all the time. Well, why that? I said, well, because everything I face in life, I look at David and Goliath. I'm David, no matter what the challenge is, that's Goliath, and I'm going to find a way to take it out. Either that means I got to throw a stone in its eye, right? So that's like my daily reminder is that tattoo is no matter what I'm facing, I just sometimes if it's tough, I just look down and I'm like, it's all right. I got this. We can do it.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing that a lot of guys miss is they don't have any factor or anything outside of just like their normal life to kind of push them to that. Like there's no driving force really for like when I look at it. I don't know if that's necessarily the right words to say, but maybe some like motivation, I guess. I'm trying to think of the word to say here to prove my point, but I just feel like they don't have that motivation or something that they've faced in their life before that they can draw back upon, like previous experience that they succeeded at, or even if you failed at it, fail forward, right? Like failing is probably the greatest thing you'll ever do. It sucks and it's not easy, but you learn so much from it. But we're so afraid to fail that we think we have to be perfect all the time. No, you don't need to be perfect. It's okay to
Yeah, it's
fail.
that whole concept of you learn more from failing and trying, or from
Mhm.
trying and failing, than you do from not even trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've talked about this concept here. We talk about it in the Iron Council all the time. What's the worst that can happen? You
Yeah.
think about the fear that holds us back and the comfort that holds us back deep down inside of every man. I don't care if you're the guy chilling on your gaming rig, eating Doritos. There's something inside of you that's compelling you to more.
Mm-hmm.
And too many guys allow that to get pushed down by other things in their life, but every guy aspires for something.
Yeah.
When you're sitting there feeling aspirational, thinking about what can be, what could be, what's the worst that can happen if you fail? Really, seriously. And when you really come to terms with the fact that it's all going to be okay, even if you fail, it's going to make you that much more likely to try. And that effort of trying is going to change your life, period.
Yeah.
The concept is strong on so many levels too. Yeah, I actually had a moment of that this week, and it sounds like a trivial thing, but I was in the gym and I'm working up to a deadlift. Now I've been back on a strength routine and I'm starting to touch numbers that I haven't touched in 3 years because of shoulder surgeries and COVID shutdowns and all this good stuff. But I walked up to the deadlift bar and I'm looking at the weights and I'm going, I was legitimately like, scared is not the word, but very intimidated.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there going, oh man, I don't know if I can make this. I don't know if I can make this. And then to your point, Brad, like this little voice just goes, so what? What's the worst that's going to happen? Is you walk
Yeah.
up to the bar, you get there, and you get halfway up and you have to drop the weight. So what? What, the guy next to you is gonna think less of you? The guy you don't know and don't care what he thinks
Mm-hmm.
is gonna just shake his head? So what? And I went and I finished the lift. I ended up getting it, and it was just that I walked out of the gym thinking I need that reminder every once in a while that trying with that real potential of failure is such a stronger approach to life than hedging your bet and going, I'm 95% sure I'm going to make this, so let's do it. Or no, there's a 20% chance I don't make this, so it's that's too high of a risk. Roll the dice sometimes and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to learn a lot more, and you're going to succeed a lot more than you think.
No, but I want to riff on that a little bit. Is why is failure such an issue? Why do we think failure is such an issue in our society?
Well, I think we're ingrained to be only successful. Not to use this. This is such an example that's overused, but you go back to when we were kids and you're playing t-ball and everyone gets a trophy. That mentality of everyone's a winner, everyone succeeds, is imprinted on us at such a young age that it's really tough for a lot of guys to shake that ability of, hey, guess what, in life there's winners and losers, and being a loser doesn't necessarily have a negative connotation. Losing at something, let me rephrase that. Losing at something doesn't have a negative connotation as long as you take something away from it. If you choose to constantly not try, that's when you become a loser, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, and for me, think about failure. It's you're putting yourself out there. You're making yourself vulnerable in some way. You're exposing some element of risk. And the idea of that vulnerability and putting yourself out there and not being successful is scary for a lot of guys because of this concept of catastrophizing. Like, oh, when I invariably screw up and fail, I'm going to lose this friend, or I'm going to lose my wife, or I'm going to lose my job. I feel that there's something that's on the table that isn't necessarily there. And I think too few men have been conditioned to the idea of winning and succeeding and doing the hard work and falling flat on your face and knowing that you're still able to get back up. Here's the thing: the men that are comfortable with failure are the men who have experienced failure. If you've experienced failure and you've learned from it, you're that much more likely to continue to fail in the future because you know it's going to happen and growth is going to come from that. Too many men are unwilling to put themselves out there. They freak themselves out as to what's going to happen. So they've never seen failure, that they've never seen that they're able to pick themselves back up from failure.
So to that point, let me ask you guys this. How did you learn that lesson? What event in your life taught you that failure is okay as long as you learn from it and move forward?
Uh, that time when I moved from Texas to Florida, and I became the new kid and got bullied, and it sent me down a deep spiral into suicide. And yeah, I wrote a letter that I was going to commit suicide and I was going to kill the bully that was bullying me because the school refused for 2 years to do anything about it, and gave it to somebody at school and got turned in. And I spent 72 hours in a mental health facility, and then spent the next 6 months of school going to school for 2 hours in the morning to meet with a psychologist. And that was the rest of my school year. And then I was given, here's a packet of homework that has to be completed the next day, turn it into her. And that was school for that year. And as much as it sucked, I learned so much about myself through that process. And that's where I learned my fight mentality, and that how to turn it on, how to turn it off. And no matter how much I fail, I will never ever fail again that bad, because I know how dark it is and I know how bad that situation was for myself and my family at the time, that I will never go down that path again. And that was my deepest and darkest moment, and I failed through it instead of talking about it, but I didn't know how because I was pissed at my family because they made me move. And but I succeeded through it. And because of that, I learned so much on how to deal with situations, how to deal with people, how to deal with things that come up in life and not get stressed out about it, and like really gauge, is this something that I should worry about? Is this something I shouldn't worry about? Okay, well, if I shouldn't worry about it, then why let it bother me, you know? And that was that biggest moment for me in my life.
Man, that's a powerful story, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Mine doesn't hold weight to that one, but we talked about this a little bit on a previous episode. I was 26, broke, leveraged up to my eyeballs in debt between payday loans and credit card loans and student loans. And I had a job that I did not take seriously. It was my first real job out of college. I was on salary. I thought I'd made it because I was getting paid $31,000 on salary. Oh yeah, I thought I'd made it. So I had this girlfriend at the time that I felt compelled to constantly be impressing due to myriad issues of my own. And so my attendance at work suffered. I would prioritize her, and I got fired. And when I got fired, I also had a negative balance of PTO. So I didn't realize, because I was young and naive and stupid, that companies take that money. You owe them for that PTO. So my final check was like $70 or something like that. I had no money, no job, and I felt like I was teetering on the verge of absolute bankruptcy and financial ruin at 26. I remember I didn't ask for any handouts. I called my parents and said, Mom, Dad, I need some help. I have nothing. So they came down with a bunch of spaghetti and random food, and that's what I ate for the next month. And I had to get a job. The only job I was able to find quickly so I could get money quickly was a window washing job part-time. So I started this window washing company. We're making $12 an hour or something like that. And I slowly get back on my feet. And I went from this phase of I'm in absolute financial ruin to being able to get a job, to work my way out of that. It took time, but I realized I could do it. That was the first time in my life where I faced down tremendous adversity and decided, you know what? The only way out is through. I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to deal with the consequences that come. I'm not going to ask for any handouts aside from my parents bringing me some food. And I made it. It's hard. I had to go into my marriage with my wife with tons of debt, but we got through it, and now we're thriving. Dan, your turn.
I was going to
You're
say
not out of this.
those are both very strong stories, and I'm almost embarrassed to tell mine because it's not nearly as strong. But it happened early enough in life that I think it had a strong enough impact on me that I was able to learn pretty quick. And it goes back to when I was in high school. I played football, and again, like I said, this doesn't sound nearly as strong as you two, but our football team was horrible. Like, and I'm talking, I can count on one hand's how many games we won over 4 years for our varsity team. But through those 4 years, I moved into a team captain role, etc., and I learned how to deal with constant failure, how to keep coming back and working hard, even though you weren't getting the returns that you expected. And moreover, I think the strong thing that I took away from it was learning how to lead and instill a sense of optimism in guys that you're leading while the chips are down. And that was a tough one, getting guys to come out to practice every day and work hard, even though we knew there was a really good chance that we just didn't have what it takes to beat the team that we were up against that weekend. That was tough, but it was the lesson learned that I pulled away from it was how to take each individual and find the way to get them going, and not every guy was the same. Some guys you just have to basically headbutt in the helmet and kind of fire them up. Some guys you'd have to talk to before practice. Some guys it was music, whatever it was, but you had to get the guys motivated to go out and play and work hard and still put that effort in. So there was a leadership lesson learned there, as well as instilling in me just the knowledge that there is a benefit in hard work regardless of the outcome. And I knew that at the end of the day, I could look myself in the mirror and just say, you know what? I've done all that I can do to get to the best position that I can put myself and the team into and move forward. So yeah, I wasn't any financial problems or anything like you had, Nolan, but I learned lessons.
Let me tell you this, man. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how small you think yours is,
Yeah.
how insignificant you think yours is. It's still failure.
Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
face a failure. Stop judging your failure versus my failure, or my failure versus Brad's
Oh
failure.
yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that because that's what we do, and that's why we
We
get
do.
stuck in that real small gap of, well, I don't have anybody to compare to. I don't have friends that have done that anything like
Hmm.
I have and stuff. Because we do that. Failure is failure. You still learned from it, and you still got something out of it that still taught you throughout your life, right? Because what you said there is a very huge servant leadership tactic that you learned in high school, that you didn't know that's what it was at the time, but you could identify each individual person on your team and what motivated them and what brought them success and motivation and got them to what you wanted them to do, right? Now, in your job or life or whatever, you can take those same tactics and know how to motivate each single person to their best ability to get them to do what they need to do to be successful. And
Hmm.
that's what you're doing in the Iron Council, and that's what we're all doing, right? But don't judge your failure or your success versus somebody else's, because we all have them. And that's where I think, personally, out of all the conversations I've had with people through Marine Corps, IC, police life, everything, just general people on the side of the road, I'll tell you this: one of the coolest things that you'll ever do in your life, stop, go get, when you're out getting lunch and you have some time, even if you don't have time, make some time, go get some lunch and just go sit with a homeless person and give them lunch and talk to them. Some of the greatest conversations you'll ever have, some of the really cool stories. And just, it's not that they want to be homeless, it's, whatever factor in their life, but man, you want to learn about failure and about picking themselves back up, even if they have absolutely nothing, but finding success and finding a way to make it every single day. Dude, that's some powerful conversations right there.
Yeah. We learn from failure. And, Techo Nolan, Dan, you know this, but this is a message for anybody listening just as much as it is for you. Don't compare your failures, your shortcomings, or your victories to anybody else's. Your journey is yours and yours alone. And if you choose to withhold or not participate or engage with others because you feel that what you went through doesn't measure up, you're only hurting yourself in the end.
I appreciate that, guys. That's a lesson that I think I need to continuously learn, because it's very easy to compare yourself to others and say, well, my problems aren't as bad as Brad's or Nolan's or Joe down the street, so it's
No
they don't
one's
count as much, or that kind of thing. It's yeah, that's a lesson that I continuously need to learn. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I was going to say Nolan has a lot of problems, so you've got nothing to worry about.
Yeah. Here, at least you don't have this, the
Oh
nebulation.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
Nolan's missing two of his fingertips from an experience he had a
Unfortunate
few months ago.
event.
Unfortunate event.
Victim of somebody else's stupidity. No, but like we were talking about it earlier, with complacency and why guys are men specifically. I mean, it's the whole population, but men specifically are stuck in that. And I think it goes back to what we just talked about, is that they compare themselves to everybody else. And, well, there's no way I can get out of being 450 pounds. Well, yeah, because you keep ordering, a bag of cheeseburgers from McDonald's, and you're comparing yourself to the bodybuilder that's been doing it his entire life, has been dedicated to bodybuilding. Yeah, you're not going to get there tomorrow. There's no magic pill. There's no steroid supplement, whatever, that you can inject or take that's going to make you lose 200 pounds and be ripped as all hell. It's not going to happen. It's going to take twice as long as what it took you to get that to where that 400 pounds, it's going to take you twice as long to lose that 200 pounds to get to 250 if that's where you want to be, you know. But we're so constant, we've been ingrained to compare ourselves to everybody else and everything else, that's the downfall. That's why we can't get past that.
That's why the intentions of the body positivity crap seem pure, right? It's don't compare yourself to somebody else. But the toxicity in it is you're okay just as you are. You're okay being morbidly obese. You're okay being unhealthy. That in and of itself is a complete pile of crap.
Yeah, it's funny, like, so what you're talking about with the body positivity part, there's this new song out and it's a girl that's talking about Victoria's Secret and how everybody has always thought it was a girl company for girls, and it was actually a company started by an old dude from Ohio, like, that had this whole body image of what women should look like, right? Like, it's a really funny song because she talks the entire time is talking about, if I would have known that that's what it was, where would I be differently now, knowing that and not going down that route. But that's what everybody, I mean, think about it. Our age women compared themselves to what? The Victoria's Secret models, right? 90% of the time. And that was what it was in our time. That was what it was. And, you know, so it was just, it's very interesting to talk about that. I know that's women specific, but still, I mean, that's where that's started though. And now it's just grown to everybody.
Well, we've been going for about an hour, so I want to be conscious of you guys and make sure you get you out of here on time. So, Nolan, man, I really appreciate you joining us today. It was a great conversation. We'll definitely have to do this again sometime. Brad, appreciate you as well. You know, it's always good to get to talk to you. To the fellows who are listening, come check us out on untamingmasculinity.com. You'll find show notes for this and all of our other episodes, as well as links to our social media. Definitely hit us up there. We want to talk to you guys there. We'll link ways to get in touch with Nolan. Maybe you'll even get to see his screwed up finger. Definitely check us out there. Leave us a rating and review on your podcast player. That helps us get the word out and helps us spread the message to other men. And come back next week. Until then, we'll ask you just one question. What are you doing to untame your masculinity?